Frey is an artist, not a scientist, philosopher, medical researcher, or doctor. Or I should say, not merely a scientist, philosopher, medical researcher, or doctor. Frey brings the unique perspective of the artist to the subject, a perspective informed by an amazing breadth of knowledge. Frey opens his book, Artist, the Hypothesis of Bodiness, with the following quote: "At some point in the near future, empirical research will demonstrate that the visual experience evoked by certain works of art will be beneficial to one's physical and mental health. And our need for art has a biological basis within our bodies."
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, let me first express, of course, my gratitude to Jack Rasmussen for his invitation and kind introduction, for Dorothy Kosinski for her support and interest in the program. Besides, I'm very glad, of course, extra glad that dear friends Carl Brown-Goldberg and Anil Refri have agreed to participate in our discussion after the talk. Though this talk is only a short introduction to my book, I still hope to make clear that we are on the verge of an entire different approach for understanding art, focusing on the whole mind-to-body experience of art, in which, for obvious reasons, we need to include knowledge from biology, especially neurobiology. This approach offers a new complexity. My book can only offer some facts, indications, and keys for further research and discussion. I do hope the various challenges the argumentation offers will spark a wider resonance. To correct, the left one is called Albert, and the right one is called Marie. And they show how the brain activities interconnect with the rest of the body. And this is, of course, an image you will recognize, showing even more the nervous system of the whole body. Body and mind are one organism, are one whole. The physical imperfection or unfinishedness in artworks automatically attracts our gaze as something familiar, as something of ourselves, as if you recognize another human being, causing in our own brain a mirror response, like when we look at the downstairs. Needless to say, we are not really aware of this, and should not.
So, buy the book, read the book, invest a lot of time. It's thick. It's rich with ideas. So let me just dive into this conversation by starting with a little black and white line drawing, the so-called self-portrait that Frey showed by the Czech artist František Kupka. I start there out of sheer selfishness, because as a curator, before I took on this job as a director of that much beloved and want to succeed museum, I curated a wonderful František Kupka show and learned a lot about that artist. And it brings me full round back to the conversation that Carol and Anil and I had last week, sort of prepping for this discussion. So, one of the themes of tonight is about art and science. One of the 400 themes of tonight.
I love painting, I love the chemistry of it, but mainly I remember that moment where I thought, this is what I want to do the rest of my life, because I can take in information while I paint, and that's what I've done.
I don't get any information of that sort because it would be very distracting for me. With the painting that was shown belongs to my most recent series, Ram Darwaza. And the paintings were created as a form of meditation, so I listen to a particular mantra, and it's on a tape, and it's on a loop, so it plays for the entire duration that I'm painting, so it could be about 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. So the music and the sound then becomes white noise, as we were talking about.
I'm playing in the background, and Carol also listening. And I'm sure when she's not listening to tape books, she will listen to music. I himself, but it's more on the level exactly like also Arnold said. It's not really listening or enjoying the music. It's very funny. You only hear when the CD is done, and then you miss it. Then there's nothing. And I have at some point I started discussing that with many colleagues, and all artists have something like that. The music might be entirely different. And Frank Auerbach, for instance, he says he hates the kind of sound listening to music, but he recites poetry in his head. And so it's you could say it's not proven yet, but I'm pretty sure at some point it will be found that the brain, to be able to focus, needs to do something else. You all will have the same experience when focusing in a meeting or something that you have to somehow you scribble, and it helps you to focus your attention. And an artist that also works in very similar ways. It's more indeed like white noise on the background, but it helps you to focus and instrument. The other thing of routine is a motoric issue, which most people are not aware of. It falls on the big chapter motor reflexes. Because we all know from birth on you build up a lot of different motor reflexes. Like you need them to train to learn how to eat with a fork and knife, and at some point you forgot to think about it, you just do. And these are motor reflexes, also how you walk steps. You only have to talk to somebody who has had a hip operation to understand how difficult it is, that you have to relearn again to walk steps. And now comes the interesting thing for scientists, that's a normal thing. All the knowledge, the memory of motor reflexes is not stored in the brain, it's stored in the spine. And you can relate to that when you look at great sporters, say tennis players. If the tennis player sees a ball coming, and he would first hit through his retina, blah blah blah, in his brain, and then the brain would have to consider, now I have to give a command to my arm to move. The arm would always be too late. So the arm moves as if by itself, and we all know this phenomenon. You can definitely relate that to being an artist, also if you do, through the times by having repeatedly done the kind of compositions you do, you're not even aware of where to start or how to proceed.
Posing the question of the importance of knowing what our brains are doing when we're looking at the painting. There is a great phrase, not the only person who is investigating these connections. Even before my tenure at the Phillips, Jonathan Feinberg did an Art of the Brain symposium at our Center for the Study of Modern Art. I think it was our first large symposium. And he had Samir Zeki, and then I remember just months before I came to the Phillips, I was invited to a conference at the Baltimore Museum, and they're doing collaboration with Johns Hopkins. So there's this hunger. I think that it's a good thing because in the 20th century, at least, we all pretended that all the disciplines floated apart like icebergs breaking up and they had no connectivity, which is nonsense, of course. We're returning to our Renaissance minds, and that's why I think I find phrase investigation so provocative, because it's part of that idea of how do we tie together everything. So the question to the artist, what do you hope for your work of art when it's in the world?
If somebody who doesn't know your name, doesn't know your career, sees your work and is enthralled by it. And that sounds like, again, you can label it as ritual or high consciousness or something, but that's what my interest in neuroscience is to help understand a little bit about what's happening in such a person. And that's why I showed you the eye tracking bit, because the key factor at the moment seems to be that art looks like we all say work. When they attract your vision without that you are really looking for it, and then automatically your eyes roll over the word longer.
I think what that is, or what that means, is a complete absence of the ego when you confront a work of art or an object, because you have a similar experience, especially in the Japanese Zen tradition, when you look at a stone. So whatever the object is, on totally equal terms, when the viewer and the object are equal, then it opens up a passageway for an exchange.
Rapid eye movement, then it would be interesting for museums to have to reconsider not what they do, but that all museums have the pressure, they should have more attendance, and all art lovers know, okay, it's good when other people walk in the room, but not tens of thousands. Because then, and related to what I said, it would be an argument for museums to say, we have little attendance, but that's exactly fine, because that allows people the real experience.
We don't really want to talk about my job today.